What's up, do-it-yourselfers? Thanks for tuning in to Small Engine Repair Channel, where our main goal is to make sure you know that you have the ability to fix or repair whatever you want to take on. Alright, welcome to our Halloween wicked spooky episode of our Street Sweeper. We sold this thing on Craigslist, and it is time to move it out of our backyard. I'll tell the story as we go on, but as you guys can kind of start seeing here, we're going to start by airing up the tires, or if they even need it. Neither of these back ones did. This thing's been sitting for 7 years in my backyard. I took it in on trade from a client who basically wanted to pay for a repair with this thing and a landscape trailer that I could use, and the sweeper was too cool to not basically take. My whole vision with it was, you can see it's been sitting for a while, guys. Fuel system was just completely varnished on this thing. Don't mind that old dirt bike in the corner over there. But yeah, we got it from a client, and I was gonna do Christmas parades with it. I had full anticipation on that, and it never happened. So down the road it goes. We got hydro oil in it. We're gonna check for gas, and it had 0 fuel in it, which made me think, did this thing acquire a fuel leak in the last couple years? Daryl thought so as well, our little mini healer corgi there. So I put some fuel in it. Nothing too crucial here. I kind of wish it would have lit on fire, but it didn't. This little guy popped up a lot during this project. Anywho, we don't see any leaks coming down or dribbling down, and so we can pretty much assume that it just basically evaporated out of the tank because it had been sitting for so long. Like I said, I think the guy that I got it from said it had been sitting for 10 years at his place. He ran a landscape business and had hopes of running this thing in parking lots and never did. The guy that we sold it to is actually going to be doing parking lots with it. Cool. Or nice little save there without lighting the thing on fire again. Holy smokes. But yeah, the guy that we sold it to, he's going to be doing parking lots with it as well. He said he's going to be cleaning the leaves up with it at his house. I hope he makes lots of money with it. Travis, if you see this, oh, there goes my jump box. Travis, hope you enjoy this thing, and yeah, it was really fun delivering it to you and making this video and bringing it back to life. I'm glad it went to a good home. So as you can see here, I started off with the basics on this one, guys. If you're a small engine person, we just tried to hook a jump box to it and see if it would crank over. I got a little fuel in a can there. I'm going to shove it down the intake and see if it'll crack off. I got a little chunk of wire, or a little chunk of metal, whichever one's in this frame. I ended up using a chunk of wire because the key switch wasn't working at first. Ended up having to throw some lube on it, and it basically would not turn over whatsoever. This battery was plumb junk. I tried charging it for a week and it wouldn't charge. So I followed the main start from the battery post over to the solenoid and jumped from the main battery wire to the start post there, as you guys can see, just to try to turn it over. That didn't work. Took my jump box, went straight to ground, took the positive lead off the jump box just to crank the thing over to make sure it wasn't seized up or anything. I hand spun the crank over too, so I knew, but I wanted to get a little bit of noise here out of it and make sure it did turn over and the starter worked. And sure enough, my jump box had just enough to tell me that it turned over, but my jump box is junk, and that little red guy poked fun at us again. So basically, this was as much as we got almost for day one. Or I shouldn't say day one. I was working on this nights after the shop was closed and after making other videos for you guys and everything else. So this was kind of spare content. But first night of working on this thing, decided to call it after this. I knew it was going to turn over. I knew the battery was junk. I knew it was going to be a long road ahead, which made for a great Halloween episode of bringing this thing back to life. It has an old Kohler opposing V-twin in it. Or not V-twin, I shouldn't have said that. Opposing twin. And yeah, just putting the cap on it for the night. We're going to call it for day one. gonna start fresh for day 2. I will pull the battery out of it too. I shouldn't say that. We're not completely done for day 1. And the audio on this, guys, I'm sorry. It's a 20-minute voiceover, so don't expect a lot out of it. The voiceover is gonna be what it is. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I'd love to interact with anyone that wants to know about this thing. I know very little about it, but I know somewhat about it. So, and I had fun bringing it back to running condition again. So let me know. If you have any questions, we'll answer them. Day 2, we charged the battery overnight, or at least thought we did, and brought it back. This was the biggest pain on this whole machine, was the battery location. I can't tell you how much I hated putting the battery in and out of this machine. So after about the 4th or 5th day of trying to charge it, I finally just bit the bullet and bought a new one. I don't even know if I got a clip of the new one, so I'll just say that now. But as you guys can see, even with the new battery, it is a struggle, and this guy was just enjoying it while I was trying to put this battery in. So this one, I believe, was a late 70s, early 80s model from the looks of it. It does have points. It has 12 volts going to the coil. If any of you know about small engines at all, you know that it's an absolute no-no, and how old this thing is, that it requires 12 volts for the coil to activate, should tell you its age. So once we finally got the battery slid in here, from the other angle, it did work out a little different. Just had to think about it, but excuse me, we're still working over a pretty good sickness. It is that time of year, I suppose. But yeah, we got the battery in, hooked up the terminals with lots of effort and high hopes, because we charged this thing for 24 hours basically, thinking it was going to come back. It was low on some fluid, so I put brand new lead in it, or not lead, but the lead acid in it. And yeah, we had really high hopes of this battery coming back to life. Did not happen. So we brought reinforcements in. This is the battery out of my car trailer for the winch, and I got basically tired of messing with that other battery, so we brought in the artillery. This is going to get a little hillbilly here, so everybody just kind of pay attention. The main thing you don't want to do here is touch metal to metal, and you don't want to touch these posts together. If you can take any tips out of this, or if you're just watching this for entertainment, that's cool too. But yeah, you never want to touch 2 battery posts together. And I'm doing some real funky stuff here. I got my ground hook up to the frame of the machine, and I'm basically just taking the positive lead, and I'm going to touch it right to, or I think I'm going to touch it right to the engine and get it to crank over. And for some reason, this little demon on day 2 was just being very tedious and didn't want this thing to turn over at all. I pretty much wrapped this up to it was something in the air. I can't remember if it was a full moon this day or not, but this thing was just clicking to where the day before I had it turning over, and I just was basically fed up after messing with it for a while, fiddle-faddling with the battery as you guys saw. It was clicking. I decided to not just give up for the day. We moved on to day 3. So as you guys can see here, we're getting a little frustrated with this project at this point. Long story short, it did run when I parked it here. I parked it here when we moved the business to our actual shop, and I had the business out of our house for a long time, and I parked it here back then, and I never moved it to the shop. It just sat in the backyard, and so I didn't anticipate this thing being this much trouble to make it run, but boy, was it a booger. And so at this point on day 2, I'm thinking to myself, what have I got myself into on bringing this thing back to life for this guy that I've sold it to, and he's actually courteous enough to actually pay me for it already. So I had to make this thing run. Not only that, we had to deliver it to about, I don't know, 200 miles away from us, something like that, which was going to snow this weekend, and I wanted to get it there before the snow flew really hard. So yeah, getting a little frustrated with it at this point, and just had to tell myself, calm down, as we all do in situations like this. Come back to it on day 3, and let's have a little fun with it. Started thinking of some thumbnail ideas here, you know, got invaded by my corgi. That's okay, no big deal. This guy got in my mind again. Tammy, you know I love you forever. Alright, let's keep moving on. So, decided to put the battery on the other side today, just to make things a little easier on myself. whatnot, decided, hey, let's not arc anything, let's pull the positive lead off the battery before fiddle-faddling down here. The battery, once again, as I mentioned in not yesterday's episode, but as you guys saw on when showing you from the footage from yesterday, the battery's in a weird spot here. So I ended up getting a little plastic container and yeah, putting it in a spot here where the positive lead would not arc off anything metal. Yeah, cause a fire, as I've mentioned a few times in this episode. So we got it sitting in our little makeshift plastic box there. I'm going to work over to the other side, and we're going to hook our positive lead back to the main battery point and see if this thing will actually turn over and start today. We're going to see. So as you guys can see, this thing did have a hard tire that came with it. It's on the ground there. I don't know why this thing would ever need that, because it's hard to turn it even with the pneumatic. And we're gonna move to basically where I'm jumping off the solenoid, as I showed you guys before, and I'm gonna see if this thing's actually building any fuel pressure at all. And I'm gonna zoom into the fuel pump here, and I'm taking the fuel hose off the other side, and as you guys can tell here as I'm cranking it, it's barely trickling like something I would compare it to if kids weren't probably listening. So anyways, this thing's gonna need a fuel pump, and I did order a fuel pump for it, an OEM fuel pump that happened to be wrong. So that's basically going to show us, I'm going to show you guys in the end how we rigged it up, but it was basically just an electronic fuel pump. But long story short, I didn't know that at first. I went ahead and did a little bit more diagnosing, made sure I had decent fuel flow coming out the bottom. We did. I actually took this fuel pump apart. The diaphragm wasn't super stiff or nothing. I'm surprised it wasn't pumping. I'm just blaming it on old and Halloween time and whatnot. So I did want to make some noise out of this thing, and so just to hear it run, it was kind of bugging me a little bit that I hadn't heard it run, and going on day or 3, 4 or whatever we're going on here. So I went ahead and moved the camera here a little bit. I pumped some fuel down the barrel just to hear this thing go. And I'm going to shut up for a minute so you guys can actually hear it run for the first time. Yeah, yep, it fired for a minute there, and that's the first time in 7 years this Oppo twin here is cracked off. So if you guys have an appreciation for that sound, maybe you'll appreciate that there, but if you don't, there you won't. So we're gonna do it one more time here, and I'll let it run just for a couple seconds. I'm gonna try to see if I can get the fuel pump to prime. Nope, no such luck. All right. And yeah, long story short, I tried to work with what we had on this deal, but I ended up just having to put some new parts on it, which ultimately it is what it is. So I didn't want to take it apart too much because I did need to get it gone. So pardon my little cookie over there. We'll see if we can make some noise for you guys again here. Sorry for the weird shirt angle. I know that's not real cool to look at, but yeah, how cool is this thing? Fuel pump just would not work. I'm keeping quiet here, guys, so you can appreciate the sound of this thing coming to life for the first time again. And even though that little demon wouldn't let it run consistently, I'm still pretty darn happy with it at this point in time. So, anyways, at this point, I knew I was just going to rig up either a new fuel pump or electronic fuel pump. I didn't really put the footage of me finding out that I bought the wrong fuel pump on here, so we just cut forward to where I rigged up the electronic fuel pump. I basically came off the 12-volt side of the coil. If you don't like that, I'm sorry, but that's what I had to deal with. And went down to this little basic fuel pump and hooked the ground side of the fuel pump to the actual where I mounted it right to the frame. Bada bing, bada boom. Plumbed into some new fuel lines on here, and let's see if this thing is going to move for the first time in nearly a decade. Yeah, this was pretty cool for me. And holy smokes, literally, look at this thing. Yep, get out of here, man. We're not dealing with you today. This thing's moving, and we're putting it on a trailer here pretty quick. So, as you can see, I got a belt hanging there. That just made it start easier. I could not see how this thing had an activation for the actual broom. It looked like it was just basically, once you turned it over, it was live action, and I didn't want it spinning, putting it on the trailer here. I'm going to show you guys how this thing completely operates. Full disclosure, this was the first time I ever operated the hydros besides driving it on this machine. So the hydros are going to get a little glitchy here, but checking engine oil because it was on level in my yard. Wanted to make sure the engine oil was proper. And it was. As you can see, we didn't have to do nothing here. I would have drained it if it looked over full. It was looking a little over full where it was parked, but it was kind of at an angle too, and these old clothes, they kind of reach. I'm going to fire it up here and let this thing spin or circulate some hydro fluid. This is literally the first time circulating hydro fluid, probably 20 years on this machine. So, at least in these Rams here. So, as you can tell, I am not a very smooth operator at first here. Figured out which one was the header, or the bristle broom, whatever you want to call it. I call it a header because I used to do hay and call something like that a header. So, and this thing was pretty far up in the air. I didn't know how far at first, and I was worried about it tilting up on ass end. It does have some wheelie bars in the back, but I didn't want to get underneath and adjust them because I'd already been done working on this thing. So I only went about, I don't know, halfway up there at first. Still learning the hydraulics on it, and I was actually smoothing out in the end. I ran a few machines in my day, so it's just like as soon as I felt how glitchy this thing was and how touchy it was at first, I knew just be a little smoother on the sticks there, Sonny boy. So we were. But as you guys can tell, finally I shut this thing, learned what it was all about. I had no idea it kind of was designed to dump in a bed like this. I figured it dumped like, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet, dumped the bin out in a pile, and that was it. So, but once I learned how it operated, it's actually a pretty darn cool machine. Finally drew a pair here, and I raised this thing all the way up in the air. I figured empty, it shouldn't tilt back, and it had been running long enough here. If it did tilt, I could probably get forward or kick it down enough where it gets back on the front wheel again enough. But I went all the way up in the air, and as you can tell, there probably goes 6 feet. So, like I said, Travis, if you're watching this, man, hope this thing's everything you thought it was, because it was more than I thought it was when I brought it back back running. So, had no idea it did anything like that. We're gonna go ahead and go here and decided, hey, this thing's running, this thing's operating. Let's drive it, put it on the trailer. So, I actually put the wife and best friend to work here. She said, hey, I know you haven't really found much of this interesting, but you might find this part interesting, and she did. She actually had to stop filming on part of it just because she got a little scared and had to make sure we were in the right spot and stuff like that. So, wheeling this thing out of the old backyard, and yeah, coming across the pull out here. All those tires aren't normally there, so I know that looks a little tacky, guys, but I use them for a fence for my dogs. Or not a fence, but a blocker, I guess. So they can't see, because they like to bark at me. And I'm having some fun with this thing. It is kind of awkward to drive. If anybody's driven one of these, you know what I'm talking about, but it was kind of cool. I had no idea how much this thing weighed. Loading it up on a street, we were, blood's flowing pretty good. It's rush hour, so we're wanting to get this thing loaded up. And Kate was getting a little frantic, moving ramps and stuff, so I said, give me that phone. Let's get some POV footage of what this thing actually looks like loading it up. And I had no idea this was about to happen right here. Haha! And we caved in my dirt bike ramp. That was really sweet. But it died as well. Right there in the middle of the street ramp, we did that. I'm assuming through the fuel level in the tank. But I got her fired back up. We still had half a ramp, and I said, and put it on the trailer, and I did. So we fired it up. Kate kind of looked at me funny, said, "You're going to use that old ramp to put on the trailer?" And I said, "Yep, we're going to do it anyways." And it rolls right on there. So at first, when I put it on the trailer, didn't set the brake, didn't think about it, and was BSing with my neighbor. And it actually rolled into the front of the trailer. But long story short, got her strapped down and ready for transport down to Medford, Oregon the following day. And we woke up the following morning and made the transport. So we were not letting that little red dude bug us today, because by golly, we had a long way to go and I didn't need to deal with him today. So made sure everything stayed tight overnight. It rained so hard here that night. I put a plastic bag over the air filter just to be safe. And me and this little devil right here, we made the trip down to Southern Oregon and back. So stopped by the old diesel spot, dieseled up, and it was, I didn't even look at the weather because I knew the snow was following the day and it wasn't today. Little did I know we were going to hit some snow today as well. Had to swing by the shop because I couldn't find an air filter nut for this thing. And plus I figured, hey, you guys might find a little tour of the shop cool too. So if you stay tuned to the end of this video this far, this is a little bonus for you. This is what the shop looks like, little walkthrough. So as you can see here, we are busy as bleep too. I should probably be in there working right now, but I really wanted to get this video out to y'all. So once again, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, grab some nuts for the air filter and get these out of here. And if you guys have any questions on this deal, once again, please comment down below. Would love to interact with y'all. And want to make sure the doors are locked. That's something I always forget, it seems like. And not to lock the doors, but I think in 10 years I've forgot, or 5 years I forgot once, and I had just checked it and locked it. But I always check for walking out of this place. So yeah, back in old Lucinda. If you all want to check the story on Lucinda out, check out Oregon Outcast, not the cross-reference channels. But if you're into hot rods and 1-tons and Jeeps and stuff, that's our other channel. And yeah, just to give you guys a couple little extra bonus clips heading down south, Highway 97. It was beautiful morning, and was thinking it was going to be a gorgeous day. This is the Lapine area. If you all know where that's at, you probably know where this is at. But this was also just north of Lapine, just a little bit there, and all of a sudden then we hit some weather. And it turned pretty much nasty the absolute rest of the day. So so nasty I couldn't even get footage when we dropped it off. I guess whoever messed with Marty, I'm sorry about you, buddy, but seen that along the way. And this is what we actually ran into going over the pass. So we did make it back. And once again, I'm going to thank you all again for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell all your buddies about us. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.